Hi, I'm Jason from Sinister Cinema Reviews, and I'm a total dumbass because I didn't understand this movie at all. And I was bored out of my mind the entire fucking time. And I found this movie to be extremely pretentious, and I'm sure that much smarter people than I will have gotten all of the symbolisms and the metaphors and everything, but it was like, woo, way over my head if it was there. I'm sure it was. This is the new Charlie Kaufman film. And, I've really enjoyed films of his in the past. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Being John Malkovich, stuff like that. I mean, Eternal Sunshine, I think, is phenomenal. I love that fucking movie. I think it's seriously unbelievably fantastic. So when I went into this one, I was like, all right, it says it's got horror elements, it's got Toni Collette, like, oh man, sign me up. So, a synopsis? I mean, a girl and a guy are going to meet his parents, and shit just kind of gets weird. I don't know what else to say as a plot synopsis. I mean, that's about it. That's what I got. This film feels like I was actually talking to a buddy of mine, Robbie, before, and he kind of worded it pretty well. It was kind of what I was thinking, but he said something along the lines of like, it's a really weird dream where pieces are kind of missing and things don't really make sense, and then you kind of just wake up in the middle of it and go, the fuck was that? What did that all mean? That's what this was to me. This is a 2 hours and 14 minutes of me just staring at a few people. I think there's really only like maybe 5 or 6 main characters in the movie, and 2 of which are the boyfriend and the girlfriend in this, and they just talk a whole ton. And I found pretty much none of it interesting. That's just my take. Like, there's gonna be people who love this, they blow it. I had a friend, David, loved it. He's like, oh man, I loved it. But he's that kind of guy. He loves this kind of shit. I made fun of him. I'm like, yeah, you love movies where people talk about boring shit the entire film and then nothing happens and the movie ends. And he's like, you know me so well. And I'm like, dude, okay, cool. I mean, if this is your thing, awesome. Whoa. I couldn't have disliked this more. Like, the performances are good. The way that this movie looks, but like, let's take the title, for instance. I'm thinking about ending things. So at the beginning of the movie, she just kind of keeps repeating this inside of her head. There's some narration to it by her, and she's like, I'm thinking of ending things. I'm thinking of ending things. I don't really know how that plays into the film at all, except for that it's the opening line of the movie. But this is what I'm saying. Like, I'm just too dumb to get it. But I don't know. There's plenty of other movies that are extremely confusing to a lot of people, and I'm like, I totally got it. So I just must not be the target audience for this one. I just kept waiting, and the first like 45 minutes of the movie or something is really just them talking back and forth, and then Toni Collette's character comes out with the dad. I think is played by Julian Sands, right? And everything's pretty normal up to that point. These, like Toni Collette's character is a very odd, eccentric woman, but she's just kind of a typically awkward mom. A little exaggerated version of one, but still it was all kind of, staying within the realms of reality. And then there's these kind of like dark, sinister tones to it at times where things are kind of implied or suggested, like something in the basement or something like that, which doesn't really go anywhere. But then around like 45 minutes, characters start to age drastically, and it's not really noticed by anybody. So this is where everything just starts to get really bizarre. And I'm all for bizarre. I'm all for like artistic expression, and things are super fucking weird, and I'm like, oh cool, I get this. But just nothing in this film for me worked, because I never connected with anything. I never understood what the purpose of anything was. There's a janitor in the movie that I was super confused on who it was, and then at the end I was like, is that supposed to be this person, and are they reflecting or something? There's a dance number, there's a song, like somebody sings and they're in this like really old makeup, but it's like purposely done bad. I don't know, guys. I don't know what the fuck is happening here. Now, putting horror attached to this, that to me is nowhere near accurate. Like, could I see specific horror elements, like kind of like moments of tension of like, is this kind of going horror-ish, or like atmospheric tones, to where like there's a scene where they go to a malt shop or like an ice cream joint and the characters are acting very weird. As I said, the basement scene. Then there's another scene where he's driving and she's kind of freaking out about where they might be going. And it's all just kind of like laced in there. So there are these moments that kind of feels like horror for almost a second, but it never really does anything. It never really goes anywhere. It kind of amounts to nothing for me. As I said, there's going to be people who are, what are you talking about? That scene was fucking amazing because it meant that, look, it was a reflection of their childhood and blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't fucking know. Tell me. I mean, go ahead. Write your dissertation down below and explain to the dummy that didn't get the movie. But I'm not going to sit here and lie and pretend like, oh, yeah. Like, this movie reminded me of a fable called The Emperor's New Clothes, right? This is something I talk about all the time. And I'm not saying that this movie doesn't have genius to it. I'm sure it does. With who's writing it and everything, and the book that it's based on, I'm sure that people will break this down and I'll be like, oh, wow, that's really smart. I just was too dumb to get it, and so I was bored the whole time. Okay, fine. I'm willing to admit that. But like with The Emperor's New Clothes, like, you know the story. The guy, he's walking around naked, and everyone tries to pretend because the fabric that he's wearing is supposed to be so, high fashionable that only a peasant, only a moron wouldn't see it. And so no one wants to admit that, they don't see the clothes. They're like, oh my God, those are the most amazing clothes ever. And then some kid's like, that dude's just walking around naked. What the fuck are you guys talking about? And then everyone kind of starts laughing like, you're right, he is just walking around naked. We've kind of been duped. This is that kind of movie to me. This is that like weird for weird's sake. I don't feel like anything's actually being said here. But I know that's not true. Like when I'm watching it, I know there's all these like metaphors and symbolisms in it. It just went way over my head. Like, could I sit down with a friend after and talk about it and be like, okay, it's probably this, this, and this? Sure, and I think I got some of it. I don't think anything would be like shocking to me if someone said it to me. I would just be like, yeah, but it's how it's done. It's not conveyed in an interesting way to me. I wasn't entertained, and that's what we watch movies for, is to be entertained or touched, where I'm sitting there like, oh my God, like, that was such a wonderfully artistic expression of one's, insecurities or fears of the future or whatever. Like, I can see that kind of stuff. I just didn't see anything here. I just kept sitting there the whole time like, what am I missing? What am I not getting here? Is this like fears of commitment? Like a woman kind of playing out different scenarios or different time periods of like how it's going to be and what it could be like? Is that like, if that's it, okay, fine, then that's it. But for me, the dialogue dragged. It's all that like really kind of witty dialogue where people are talking very quickly and poetically, and they bounce back off of each other, which is fantastic when it's working for you. But for me, it just was like adding to that that disconnection. I was just like, I don't really relate to these people. I don't really understand where this is going, what this means, what purpose this serves. Like, they keep talking about certain things that they did, but then those things change later. So these like alternate timelines, or I don't know. But I was not entertained. I didn't like this. Like at all. I didn't enjoy any of my time watching this. Good acting, really well shot. I'm sure it's much smarter than I will understand, but that's all I can say on the movie. I'm done. Adios.